hide and seek. For the first time in 7 years, Mount Vernon's finances were somewhat revealed. A first report that he needs to kind of community. Do you think or another community? I don't think so. I think when you look at the situation in Mount Vernon, you just have to know that it's definitely politics that played a role in Mount Vernon being able to get away with raising taxes and having taxation without representation for so long. But I do know that we have, for the first time in a long time, a real dialogue with some information that could be helpful to taxpayers to figure out where their taxes are going and why they're going that way, and what happened to all the promises of safety and the promises of services, and you're not getting any. But I do want to just highlight real briefly the Autism Project. It's coming up on August 13th. It's the Project Backpack for the Special Student, a book bag giveaway on August 13th at 45 Park Street in Yonkers. I want to give them a shout out, the Autism Project. Very important work. While inflation is high and gas prices are high, and the economy is definitely in a shaky place, we cannot forget to get ready to give back to our community, especially our special students that need a special boost. So the Autism Project, definitely much thanks to FLOS, Floss Inc., for their work, their charitable humanitarian work in getting the community out to give away at least 150 backpacks on August 13th from 1 to 3 p.m. at 45 Park Street. We'll talk more about the Autism Project-FLOS.org for you to check them out. Want to make sure you know to give back and get ready to support them. But as we revisit the situation in Mount Vernon, I just want to recommend everybody ask the question. There was news about Scarsdale schools having an issue with a payroll snafu, and the IRS is penalizing the district approximately $1 to $2 million for not addressing a payroll issue, and everybody's up in arms. The media is covering it. There was a story that came out that said, "Oh, they're trying to whitewash the situation," but meanwhile, a few miles down the road, Mount Vernon, they haven't filed financials with the state since 2016, and there's been no coverage, no conversation. And as the former mayor, I must say I'm deeply disturbed that the media has paid no attention to this issue. And it's like, how can a community get hundreds of millions of dollars in relief or aid, but yet not have any finances to show for it? It goes to show you the depth and the breadth of the issues there. But it's a sad situation to know that Mount Vernon has been kept in the dark about its situation. And what I can tell you is we need to get the finances under order, because we need to that's the only way we can have financial freedom. If you think about all the niche conversations out there about financial freedom, you can't have financial freedom if you don't understand your finances. And it just seems like there's been this big effort to keep Mount Vernon away from having access to the information it needs to, have a meaningful plan and a meaningful positioning of its future. When you don't have a grip on the finances. So there's a lot to discuss and unpack there, which I will be unpacking next week with Mount Vernon's former Inspector General, who reported on this. We're going to dive into Mount Vernon's mysterious finances next week, July 20th. So you definitely want to be a part of that show. But today we are returning to a conversation that we were having back toward the end of June. I believe it was June 22nd, where we had Robert Kessin of the Stonewall National Museum and Archives on, and Robert was talking about the danger to our democracy when you have the Supreme Court of the United States literally attacking human rights. And he was raising the specter and the question of, are the attacks aligned and coordinated with various states across the land? And we have to ask the question, what is going on? What happened with the Supreme Court? Robert, thanks for joining us again.
My pleasure.
So before the day after we spoke, Roe versus Wade was overturned. You ominously predicted that. You want to touch upon that, or before you touch upon that, you want to just share with everyone a little bit about your organization and what you're doing to advance human rights.
Sure. We are one of the world's largest LGBTQ plus libraries and archives, and we also have a museum, and we're based in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And we are national and international in scope, and our goal is to remind people of history so that we are less likely to continue the series of events that lead us down paths that we have traveled before and require us to continue the same struggles rather than make the kind of progress that everybody seems to hope for.
Mm.
So our goal is to make history come alive, know the pathways, and hopefully people will learn from them and not continuously repeat them, because as we all know, doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result is the definition of insanity.
So we have an insane situation going on right now, where human rights seem to be under attack. What should people do to strike back and to reclaim their rights that were rolled back?
Well, I think that one of the first things people can do is go out and buy an American flag. And the
Mm.
reason I say that, and a lot of people look at that with great skepticism.
Well, I tell you what, we're gonna wave that flag when we get right back from commercial break. Don't change that dial. Listening to what happened here on WVOX. How you doing out there? Remember to register to support the backpack giveaway by Floss Inc. Got them up.
Percent in the year ending in June. Now there's speculation the Federal Reserve could be even more aggressive in raising interest rates at its meeting later this month with an increase of as much as a full percentage point. Stocks were sharply lower in early trading before turning mixed. Delta Airlines shares are losing ground even though the company made a profit in its recent quarter. Wall Street was expecting stronger numbers. Higher prices and strong demand for summer travel.
Multitask here. Hey, how you doing? We on commercial break, but we're gonna get back to this conversation about the Supreme Court of the United States. We have on the line Robert Kessin from Stonewall National Museum and Archive talking about human rights in the Supreme Court taking away our rights, and even for people that are in prison, or wrongfully convicted, they now have less rights than they did before to challenge wrongful convictions. So it's a huge situation unfolding right now, and we really truly need to have a focused conversation about this. So I invite you to join. The phone number is 914-636-0110. Again, that's 914-636-0110 if you want to join in to talk with us about what's going on at the Supreme Court and how our rights, even for those that are wrongfully convicted of a crime, your rights have been rolled back and reversed, leaving almost no chance for you to address injustice in America. And that on itself is an injustice. So we really truly need to look at what we can do and what our options are to make sure that at least on the state level that there are protections for human rights. And we have a lot of work to do. And it's not just attacking people that are wrongfully convicted. It's attacking people that want to express themselves. They're looking to attack people that want to be, their own self. So just stay tuned for a great discussion with Robert Kessin. We're going to jump right back into it in a few moments. Here we come. Back from break.
And now back to What Here with Rich Thomas, the former mayor of Mount Vernon, on 1460 WVOX.
Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. My name is Rich Thomas, former mayor of Mount Vernon. You're listening to WVOX at Whitney Global Media Station. And today, our show, we're here every Wednesday from noon until 1 p.m. on What Happened Here, where we ask a question of what happened with a particular situation or a topic. And the question we're asking is, what happened with the Supreme Court? My goodness, it is an attack on human rights. I mean, no matter where you look, there's something being rolled back and reversed. And our special guest to discuss this question is Robert Keston. He is the executive director of the Stonewall National Museum and Archives, based out of Fort Lauderdale, but he hails from Westchester County, a great person that comes from our community that has always stood up to injustice. Has a great track record from the United Nations all the way through out the international community to advance human rights. He's on the line discussing the situation with the Supreme Court and how human rights are under attack. You can call in and ask a question or join the debate or join the discussion at 914-636-0110. Again, it's 914-636-0110. And before we went to break, Robert was talking about what you can do as a starting point to start taking back the rights that have been reversed. Robert, what was that recommendation you gave to everybody?
Well, like I said, the first thing that people can do is go out and get an American flag. And the reason for that is the extremists have basically taken over patriotism. They drive with trucks with waving flags. They have flags waving from their homes.
Got a call.
And that has given the great middle of the country, and I don't mean that in the physical sense of the middle, but the middle in terms of political awareness and political activity and engagement, are swayed by visible signs. And so it's very important to take that sign of patriotism and see that that belongs to all of us. It doesn't belong to people who support one candidate over another. It doesn't belong to people who have one religious view over another or one political view over another. Patriotism belongs to all of us, and that's one of the things that we should take off the table immediately as we all are fighting for the people in the middle.
I love
The
it.
people who hold the power of their vote to decide who gets elected and who doesn't. So that's, I think, a first step, and it's a relatively easy step for people to do, is display that you too are patriotic. And you're patriotic in the sense that you care about human rights, you care about civil society, you care about respecting the Constitution and the three parts of government, legislature, executive, and judicial. And you believe in separation of church and state, and you believe that this country has made and continues to make, or attempts to make progress, extending rights, not taking them away. And that is a first step.
Well, we have a person that joined on the line. We have a guest caller. Caller, you're on the line. Hi, good afternoon. You're on What Happened Here?
I'm a research and I must say that I think the hyperbole of saying that the human rights under attack is rather extreme in and of itself regarding the Supreme Court's decision, but I know you may disagree with me, but perhaps you might want to talk a little bit about your call on the Supreme Court. We would have someone like Senator Chuck Schumer standing on the steps of the Supreme Court while the court is in session and throwing out justices by name. And I don't know if you remember the quote, that the Kavanaugh at this graphic. If you go forward with these decisions, they were talking about a Louisiana abortion case at the time.
Mm-hmm.
You have shown the world, and you will pay the price. I'm assuming that you are aware of the federal statute, United States Code 18, Section 1507, which is very short, says that those who intimidate or influence a sitting justice by office of court in their home is a federal violation So let me ask the two of you, could the Attorney General of the United States arrest the people looting and harassing the judge that took Kavanaugh, where we had someone trying to call him the other day? Could people be arrested for engaging in such conduct?
So to the point of, threatening physical violence, absolutely. People that
Whether
no. I'm starting with the recent example of the person going to his home and seeking to actually murder him. That was he stated from what I believe, which was reported. That definitely is unacceptable. And correct. And that's why I'm saying just
school judges, like clerks and court officers, from the type of harassment and intimidation that they've been subjected to. Could they be arrested?
well. So here's the fine line, and this is where no, it's a fine line. The fine line is it free speech or is it an actual act of intimidation? And then if a court of competent jurisdiction determines that it was in fact, let's say, intimidation or tampering of some sort, then yeah, they should be held accountable. But no court. But no.
The next,
Okay,
we just, everyone else just, that's really an offense to be told that you would consider an abortion clinic, even holding a sign within a certain number of feet of people. Did you know that?
this is news to me. But I'm listening. Keep informing. So we're gonna hold our caller on the line while we go to a brief commercial break. We're gonna pick this up when we come back from break. Caller, hope you can stay there. You're listening to what happened here. Told you it's gonna be a hot conversation. It's a great it's a necessary conversation, and looking forward to more dialogue like this because this is the only way we make progress. You got to struggle through it. So don't change that dial. Stay with us. Asking a question: what happened with the Supreme Court, and what happened with human rights, and what's happening here?
The president emphasizing what he calls a bone-deep bond between the U.S. and Israel as he kicks off his Mideast trip.
President Biden arrived in Israel greeted by the country's
How
leader,
you doing? It's crazy, right? I
President
know.
Isaac Herzog.
Mr. President, welcome to Israel, our brother Joseph.
This is the 10th time President Biden has traveled to Israel, his first as president.
Fox's Jared Halpern, an arrest made on hate crime charges in upstate New York where racist, anti-Semitic pamphlets were strewn about.
The first flyer was found stuck to the door of Rehoboth Deliverance Ministries Sunday morning. Similar material posted to the front of Temple Beth El Synagogue, as well as other locations, says New York's Southern Tier Police Chief T.J. Murray. Police spotting two men distributing the literature Monday. Authorities said they then searched their home, arresting two men and a woman.
Fox's CJ Papa, America's listening to Fox News.
Hey, let me ask you something. Would you seat your 3-year-old child on a windowsill? Would you seat them beside a lit fireplace or by the deep end of a pool? One last question. Would you seat your child in a
You got questions for Robert Kesson or our caller? Don't be afraid to drop them here. Put them in. Let us know what you think. I know it's a tough situation. So we're talking online, and the situation of rights being reversed, and then new laws being put in place. It's definitely a twilight zone of sorts because here you have opposites colliding, and as we look at the Supreme Court of the United States, the decisions they're making are truly affecting all of us in many different ways. From again, people that are wrongfully convicted of a crime they really can't now challenge a wrongful conviction. That is crazy. And then you look at the situation with, a woman's right to choose being completely thrown out. It was kicked back to the states. Okay, it's really a frightening situation to continue to see the erosion of individual rights. So, our guest today is Robert Keston, who is the executive director of the Stonewall National Museum and Archives. And you know the history of Stonewall. It's a very proud history of courage. And Robert is talking about the need to protect human rights in the face of being attacked by extreme views on the right. So, what I can tell you, we have a caller that called in that's challenging the thinking, and he raised some really good questions about, do we think, some of the speeches by our federal representatives represents intimidation or a violation of federal law. Now, I said, and my response was, if a court determines it to be a violation, then yeah, I'm not the judge literally on this. What I am saying is, if it's free speech, then it's free speech. But at the end of the day, the knife cuts both ways. If a senator calls out the court for making such a decision, meanwhile, former President Trump is calling witnesses and telling them not to cooperate with a congressional investigation. Tell me about it. Like, what's the difference between the two? There isn't. So, well, there is, but we're going to talk more about it when we come back. We'll come back from break right now. Here we go.
Of Mount Vernon on 1460 WVOX.
Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. You're listening to WVOX at Whitney Global Media Station. My name is Rich Thomas, former mayor of Mount Vernon, and you're listening to What Happened Here, where every Wednesday at noon we ask the question, what happened here? And today we're asking the question of what happened with the Supreme Court and their recent decisions. Is it an attack on human rights? Is it a reversal of half a century of precedent and law? Or is it the right decision to make? Our guest today unpacking this issue is Robert Keston, the executive director of the Stonewall National Museum and Archives. He's back on for an encore conversation. We started this conversation in June, the day before the Supreme Court reversed Roe versus Wade, and he's back to talk through some of the issues. And we had a caller on the line before we jump back to the call and the questions that were being asked. I want to invite you also to join the discussion at 914-636-0110. 914-636-0110. And before we went to break, we were talking about whether or not a sitting senator criticizing the Supreme Court rises to the level of a violation under federal law. And the same question could be asked about former President Trump contacting witnesses that are appearing before the January 6th committee and asking or telling or whatever he's discussing with them to make a decision more than likely to not participate. So who knows what that could be considered. But what we do know is that we don't want to conflate or confuse the issues. We do want to discuss and debate the question of what's going on at the Supreme Court. And before we turn back to our call, I just want to offer our guest, Robert, if you had any initial reactions to the question in the conversation, or if you want to continue with the questioning from our esteemed caller.
Well, the one thing that I would say is that the rules of the game have long been changed. And yes, there are laws on the books. Very few people seem to have tremendous respect for them, even going back a number of years to when President Obama proposed or nominated Merrick Garland for the court, and the then majority leader of the United States Senate, Mitch McConnell, decided that, no, I've decided that you're not going to get any appointments to the Supreme Court. The politicization of the United States and the way it works, the making healthcare and education into political cause, the division that now exists in our country on almost every level have really changed the platform from which we operate, and civil society is failing at every step of the way and in every direction. So the fact that we have laws to protect Supreme Court justices that some would argue broke the law themselves, or at least broke the rules of conduct when they testified at their hearings for confirmation, and then went and reversed themselves once they got on the court. The fact that Supreme Court justices have, as Clarence Thomas recently did, for people to bring cases to the court to challenge rules and laws and positions and decisions that seem to be set. This is all troubling. So it is no surprise that without recourse, people are starting to react in different ways. Local legislatures, local executives are taking on responsibilities that they think are right, that challenge the system even further. I mean, it's growing insanity that we see across the board, and to click and point at one particular thing when the system has demonstrated its inability to function in a proper manner is once again playing politics with something that is lighting the match on a sinking ship. And that's really probably, from my position, not the question that we should be asking at this point. You know, should we antagonize Supreme Court justices? Should we threaten them? Should we do this, do that? That is exactly what our society is now. We lived 4 years where the former president of the United States literally attacked people, even told his fans to beat people up, punch him. So this should come as no surprise. The testimony on Capitol Hill on the January 6th Task Force Committee is demonstrating that the thugs that were in the White House planned this. This was days in advance, weeks in advance, maybe even months in advance, knowing people were going to be carrying weapons, knowing that people were going to be violent. So whether something, carrying a gun at Kavanaugh's house, definitely over the line, but free public speech on the steps of the Supreme Court is, by today's standards, awfully tame, considering the decisions that they make that have repercussions that touch people's lives at the moment, including the 10-year-old girl in Ohio that her state's governor said should have to carry a beaded baton. Just gone off the deep end. And I think we need to be asking very different questions than how we show respect to Supreme Court justices that really have very little respect for the traditions of the court.
So our caller, Vince, I just want to give you a chance to ask your second question or offer some context or feedback, and then I know we have to jump to another caller.
Well, that's fine, but the best 5 minutes would be 5 hours to bring truth to the misrepresentations that your guest has put forward, especially with your story of a 10-year-old girl from Ohio. There was no police report, there was no doctor's report, nothing even to say that the story is true. But I'll let that go. But to characterize the Supreme Court as the way your guest has shows the troubling level to where we've come in this country. Because Senator Schumer went to a courthouse while it's in session and made threatening remarks, he just referred to that as free speech. It was a federal statute that
I said in the context of the way people are operating.
Well, that context has nothing to do with it.
Oh, yes, it does.
You should it appears to me that you're only interested in enforcing laws that you approve of. Is that not right?
Nope, that is absolutely
Why
not.
don't you see that Senator Schumer did as a clear violation of federal law?
I said, I think you're asking the wrong question. That's what.
Really? I thought you were talking about the Supreme Court.
No, I said you asked the wrong question in the sense of a nation that is tumbling down and moving a society If on that element, when you are correct, then we much chaos. So sort of a vague understanding of what's actually happening in a country that is working to destroy its democracy.
So that's the start there. Let me ask you one last question because I know I went through the line. Let's someone report basically the trial. Even though time, I'm a suspicion. Even if the mother has no physical ailment, the true is that war. And yes, that's the war.
I do not believe that I, as a male, should be determining a woman and her control over her own body.
So what about that?
Does it make me feel comfortable? Abortion doesn't make me feel comfortable.
Well, that's right.
I'm not given abortion. I don't.
So you believe that women brought to you to prevent their rape of an unborn child.
I said,
Even if the mother has no physical ailments in the 9th month.
it depends on how you define life. You know, if something is living within something else,
Yeah.
it is not a citizen, it is not.
You're comfortable living in a society, right? So you're gonna try to force me. I get it.
Well, we're going to hold. Well, I can give you an answer. We're going to hold this conversation, hold this point for a commercial break. Don't change that dial. Listen to what happened here. Told you guys. Huh? Yeah, we're going to get to the next caller. I just want to thank Vince for his call, and then we have to make room for the next caller. But he had a good point. And I want to make sure he had enough room to land his point, and I'm going to address his point before we tee up the next call. If the next call is still there, John, still there? All right, great. Okay, it's up to you if you want to tap in. Yeah, yeah. I'm bring you on. It's gonna be a tag team. That's good. That's what we need. I'm going to introduce Gerald. And what time is your show to when you're spinning? Done. All right. So I want to make sure I give a shout out to everybody so they know.
President Biden has traveled to Israel, his first as president.
Fox's Jared Alford, an arrest made on hate crime charges in upstate New York where racist, anti-Semitic pamphlets were strewn about.
The first flyer was found stuck to the door of Rehoboth Deliverance Ministries Sunday morning. Similar material posted to the front of Temple Beth El Synagogue, as well as other locations, says New York's Southern Tier Police Chief T.J. Murray. Police spotting two men distributing the literature Monday. Authorities said they then searched their home, arresting two men and a woman.
Fox's CJ Papa, America's listening to Fox News.
Connect to Fox News Audio on the Fox News app. Listen to hear your favorite hosts like Brian Kilmeade, Jimmy Fallon, and Guy Benson standing up for what's right, live and via podcast. Just click listen, then swipe right and hear the latest news updates on your time. And scroll down to hear the latest podcasts from Fox News. And it's even easier to listen in the car with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Get programming alerts and notifications. Fox News Audio is on the Fox News app. The voices America trusts. Download it now. From the Fox News Podcasts Network.
I'm Ben Domenech, Fox News contributor and editor of the Transom.com daily newsletter, and I'm inviting you to join a conversation every week with the smartest thinkers out there about the issues Americans face and where we're going as a nation. This show will feature deep dive interviews with newsmakers and some of your favorite Fox News analysts. I hope you'll join me as we dive into the firm. It's the Ben Domenech Podcast.
Subscribe and listen now by going to foxnewspodcasts.com or wherever you download podcasts.
Between the junk you've accumulated and purged and the waste generated from everyday living, you need to rely on your trash removal service to get the job done. You deserve honesty. You expect reliability. You need CRP Sanitation. Since 1979, CRP Sanitation has been the trash removal company homeowners, business owners, and contractors have depended on for honest, reliable service. No dispatchers in different locations who don't know you, no answering services. CRP employees answer the phones, and they know their customers by name. Communication is a key to their success. Communication with you. Other companies offer the world and never deliver. CRP Sanitation offers exactly what you get.
Thank you for joining. We are discussing abortion, a woman's right to choose, what happened with the Supreme Court of the United States. Many different decisions coming down, from taking away the right to challenge a wrongful conviction to basically saying a woman's right to choose is up to the state in which they live. So it's a real hot conversation. Our guest is Robert Keston. He is the executive director of the Stonewall National Museum and Archives. And we're going to be coming back from break in the next 10 seconds. Here we go. If you have a question, put them on.
With Rich Thomas, the former mayor of Mount Vernon, on 1460 WVOX.
Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. You're listening to WVOX, a Whitney Global Media Station. My name is Rich Thomas, former mayor of Mount Vernon. And every Wednesday we have a show here on WVOX called What Happened Here? And we're here from noon until 1 p.m. and we ask a question of what happened here with a particular topic or situation. And we're asking about today the Supreme Court of the United States. Our special guest today is Robert Keston, the executive director of the Stonewall National Museum and Archive. He is talking about human rights being under attack, and we have callers calling in, and you're welcome to call in at 914-636-0110 to join the conversation. I know we have a caller on the line, and we had some points that were being made before we went to break, and I will address one, but I also want to introduce Gerald. Gerald is behind the scenes, but very much a man of making things happen here at WVOX. Between break, I encouraged him and am excited that he also wants to join the conversation about what's going on with the Supreme Court. And you should know that Gerald has his show here live on WVOX every Thursday night from 9 to 10. Thursdays at 9, where it's smooth jazz and R&B. Smooth R&B and jazz. There you go. It's alive. I'm telling you right now, he be rocking, and you can rock along to the beat. Before we jump in, I just want folks that are questioning, well, where do I stand? You're gonna have to wait to hear where I stand toward the end of this break. I want to give Gerald a moment to tap in, then I want to introduce our caller and then have our guest Robert weigh in. Gerald. Robert, yeah.
Yes, Robert, because, no judge, no one should be harassing judges or any witnesses for that matter, no matter how right or wrong they are. It has nothing to do with politics or anything like that. I don't agree with what the judge is doing when it comes to abortion, because it's a woman's rights.
It's their choice.
Hands down, it's a woman's right. And no one should be harassing a judge. No one should be harassing witnesses like Donald Trump does, and Donald Trump needs to go to prison. And it's just, he commits crimes, and it's just a shame. And, our democracy, when he was in office, was in shambles, and it's just wrong.
And we're in this place now asking what happened here. And our caller, thank you, Gerald. Don't go too far away, because we're gonna have to pick up some of these points.
I can't. I'm behind the board.
So our caller, John, I believe you're on the line, John.
Whoever that man was that just speaking, the greatest president, and I'm probably a lot older than this guy, was Donald Trump. You are spewing lies and racist remarks when you talk like that about Donald Trump. Forget Donald Trump in regard to the individual. Look at the great things that he did for America. Look at what's going on in America, in our schools, in our colleges.
Hey, John.
You guys are spewing racism.
Hey, John.
Yeah.
What racist remark that, first of all, I'm a black man, number one. Number two, I sued somebody for racism years ago, and they happened to be a Greek person. So I don't know what you're talking about. So I had said nothing racist about Donald Trump. I was talking about his character. That's all. I said nothing about his race. I said
Well,
nothing
the
about.
gentleman who was on before this, I don't know who that was speaking, was degrading this guy as president, and yet
Okay.
all the accomplishments that this man has
That was
done
me.
for the United States.
Well, that could have been Gerald.
Color you are.
Yeah, no, that could have been Gerald, or it could have been. Yeah, no, but it could have been Robert describing the situation where former President Trump was, encouraging his followers to punch people at his crowds. No, no, no. Well, that's again. No, no, no. Hold on, John. I'm just describing. Hold on.
Why don't you hold up an excerpt about what he said?
But that's
And
what
let's
he,
hear it,
John.
and then tell me that I'm wrong.
John, that's what he did, and it's on film. It's on
Let's
film.
hear it. Let's hear it. Don't just say these.
Unfortunately, we don't have. I don't have the capacity to do that, but maybe going forward, I'll find a way to do it. That's a great cue. But that the guest. So I'll encourage our guest Robert if you want to tap in. Well, before we ask Robert to tap in, do you have another question to ask, or you just want to make sure the point is made to not disrespect former President Donald Trump? I just want to make sure I know where we're going with this.
I'll go along with one thing about this abortion business.
Mm-hmm.
I gotta tell you, I think it's the most necessary evil that's allowed in places here in the United States. It's a very necessary evil in this respect, that you take two young kids that are getting together and learning about life, and in the heat of the night, there's nothing stopping the lady or the boy, man or the woman, in regard to this. So I'm talking about abortions with young children, 17, 18, 19 years old. In regard to abortion that people use as birth control, I think is wrong. And it's also a lady's right to choose.
Excellent. And just, I think, John, ironically, you and I have a very similar view. I personally don't believe in abortion. I believe in responsibility. But if the law calls for circumstances or situations where it is legal and allowed, then, I respect the law, and I believe it is a right for a woman to have the ability to choose. But personally, I don't agree with that practice. So there, my faith kind of takes precedent over my political, I guess, platform that I align with the Democrats. But nonetheless, Robert, I do want to ask you. We're winding down with the final few minutes of the show. You want to add any final perspective, and I think we're going to have you come back again in a couple of weeks to talk about some of these human rights issues, because it's an important topic that we unpack. Previous caller said we need 5 hours for 5 minutes worth of your comments earlier, so I think we're going to have to get to that. So, Robert?
I think that we have lost all focus on respecting each other's human dignity.
Mm.
We yell at each other, we scream at each other, we hear what we want to hear and disregard what we don't want to hear. The art of listening is being lost along with the importance of saving our democracy. And the most important thing right now, more important than all of the other discussions that we could have, are saving democracy in the United States, because the democracy in the United States is the lamp for democracy around the world. Not that the United States is perfect, it certainly isn't. It has made many mistakes over the course of the centuries, but to the world and to people around the world, the lady in the harbor that holds that lamp for liberty and justice for all and democracy. And right now, we have United States senators that say the founders never intended for everyone to have the right to vote. So what is all this talk about democracy? That is more frightening to me than Chuck Schumer being on the steps of the Supreme Court. The fact that
Chuck Schumer,
once again, yelling is not going to solve the problem. Having a conversation and listening to people and walking in other people's shoes is much more likely to result in some kind of a solution. But we are not interested in solutions. We are witnessing a handful of political leaders that want nothing but power, and they are taking away decisions from local governments. They are taking decisions away from the way the system has worked. And the best examples I can think of are Florida and Texas, where governors have usurped many local authorities. The governor of Florida, for example, if school systems allowed mask wearing while COVID was rampant, he withheld state funds. One West Coast Florida district lost $12 million state aid simply because the school board required masks in school.
but in the meantime, Florida is flourishing.
The what?
Florida is flourishing right now. The people
We're not
of
talking
Florida
about-
are living
we're
a free world.
You know, once again, you're not listening to the statements, you're just making comments, and that's not helpful.
And this is, go ahead, Robert.
We have a lot of work to do if we're going to have the United States that we all want to have.
Well, look, we have the eye of the tiger, and we're going to make sure that we protect democracy and continue to ask a question to make democracy better right here, starting on WVOX, but also reaching out across the land. I want to thank our guests, our callers for calling in. It's been a great topic, great show. I promise you we'll be back again with Robert and Rich as we talk about what happened here. Thank you so much for joining us on WVOX.
Thanks.
Thank you. Heavy show, y'all, heavy show, but it's the right way to go. We have to ask these questions and make sure that we examine them and unpack them. And as Robert said, we have to learn how to listen to each other again. It's hard to make progress when everybody's shouting and yelling and losing sight of human dignity. So I'm with Robert in that case of biting down and listening, because it's very easy for people to get whipped up emotionally and just completely disregard anything and everything. So I'm glad you guys tapped in. You were able to be a part of this show. It's another great one, and looking forward to continuing this conversation with you. And I ask you to share it, like it, and make sure everybody knows that we're going to keep asking the question of what happened here. We have a lot to do. I want to thank our guest, Robert Kessin from the Stonewall National Museum and Archive, but also want to thank you. But look forward to August 13th, the Project Backpack for a Special Student by the Autism Project. Floss Inc. here in Westchester County. It's going to be in Yonkers, 45 Park Street, Yonkers, 1 to 3 p.m. on August 13th. You can find out more information at the Autism Project-FLOS.org. Again, that's www.theautismproject-FLOS.org. Looking forward to all of you being a part and supporting the Autism Project. Very important project that we got to make sure we support our special students with special support.